Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Kasia Dodd. She is a European licensed psychologist, therapist, and author. She is also known for developing the inner parent theory. Can you say hi, Kasia?
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here.
I appreciate you taking the time. You are very busy, not in a bad way, but in a good way. You're helping so many people. The first thing I thought about is how you develop this inner parent theory. What brought you down that path?
Well, two things. One, as you mentioned, I'm a therapist, so I've been working with people for many, many, many years, and I love this job. It's my passion to talk about the inner stuff and figuring out things, what's wrong, what's good, what needs to be changed, what needs to be strengthened, and all that. So I'm constantly immersed in the inner world. So working with people give you as a therapist a different material, if you can call it, that you can learn from. And being so curious how everything works, and literally wanted to know and understand more and more and deeper and deeper. And also, as I mentioned, this is my passion, so I do it like almost every day, my own inner work, if you can say that. Combining those two, diving deep and taking the understanding from sessions with people, I started seeing bigger and bigger picture and picture that it's more kind of making sense and having its own logic. And then step by step, year by year, suddenly I noticed that there's this inner structure that we call self, the inner self or deeper self. And it has two parts. And one part is really known that it's called inner child. Everybody talks about inner child, and we work with inner child, and we try to heal the inner child and give the inner child whatever it was missing. But nobody was talking about the inner parent. And I noticed that actually there's an extremely important structure. It's actually a duo. It's not the inner child and alone inner child, and we have to do something for it. There's the other part, and I called it inner parent because it has a totally different function in the inner construction. And then I noticed that actually it's the inner parent that has the problems, not the inner child. The inner child is a pure power who just wants to play with life, explore and enjoy and expand and just be. And it's the inner parent that's supposed to take care of the inner child and creating a safe space for the inner child that it can play. And usually the inner parent has a lot of negative beliefs or dysfunctional emotional patterns, behaviors, or reactions. And it's all projecting. It's all projected on the inner child, thinking that the inner child has the problem. But actually, no, the inner child is always perfect and has no problems. It's just the inability to see that causes that we are limited in life and having different problems and what have you. Um, so, so the shift in this perspective brought this method of working with inner parent instead of with inner child, and it's a really, really different dynamic, and the results are really, really surprising.
I like it you brought that up because I've heard about the inner child stuff before, like embrace
Hmm.
that, but I never really heard about the inner parent. The inner parent is kind of my response was just trying to control the inner
Hmm.
child, maybe, right? Try to
Yeah.
make sure they behave, right? And it can come across as very negative, and it comes out.
Yes.
I'm assuming a lot of that has to do with the background still. It's still connected, like you said.
Yes.
Their childhood and the examples or not examples, but role models they've
Hmm.
seen in the world. I try to embrace my inner child. I never really thought about the inner parent. And I'm sure I
Hmm.
come across my husband jokes that I'm a little bossy. So if it is I say the mom in me, I call myself the mom because I'm trying to help. I think women in general, we try to help others for so many reasons, but then we also neglect ourselves, right? Is that the
Hmm.
right? Am I
Yes.
saying it correctly? I've never had
Yes.
therapy about that, but I just know,
Mm-hmm.
just watching other women, right, how they're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with life. And life is not simple. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's part of it. We don't know what to do. So that side of our brain, is it two sides of the brain kind of? Or they, you know?
And I think it's more than just two sides of the brain. I think it's both the structures are like complicated, complex connections inside, but they just have a totally different function. So the inner child is the volcano of life that wants to live and play and explore and be happy all the time. And the
Right.
inner parent is the one who is aware, distant, understanding, figuring things out, choosing what's good, what's bad, discerning, and also embracing. It should embrace the inner child and create the safe space, and choosing for the child what's constructive, what's negative. But it has to be done in a loving way, meaning I really see you. I really see who you are. I really see what you need, and I will help you to achieve whatever your potential is. So when there's this mindfulness and love and peace, then the inner parent can really see the inner child, meaning who you really are, and then help it to exist in the world and radiate into the world. But when the inner parent has all those bad beliefs of you're not good enough, and we of course catch it from the childhood and from
Right.
from culture, yeah, from society. You're not good enough, or the world is a dangerous place, don't do it, and all bunch of different bad beliefs, then the inner child suffocates inside and it's unhappy, and then we have all kinds of problems. So we have to work with the inner parent and how it can embrace and accept and see the child. The child has no problems.
Right. It made me think the inner parent can help you overcome fear and
Yes.
courage, right? To
Mm-hmm.
do things.
Yes.
We all have our inner, we talk to ourselves all the time. Like I've always had that perfectionism thing when I was not now, but when I was younger, I was.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just because of the culture I grew up in. Around my mom was a great role model, but she suffered, she's from Europe and she came here. And so she was different. So I think she was trying to be perfect. So I saw
Mm-hmm.
her, right? Especially as a woman in this, the 60s and 70s, people don't realize it was just so different. And then you understand you lived in both cultures. So she had experienced that. And then she was also a military spouse, which makes it even harder. I mean, I should say makes it harder, but she didn't see her husband, right? So she had to do a lot on her shoulders. And I think, I mean, she turned out just fine. But I didn't like, why is my mom like that? But I relied a lot, I'm sorry, on my brother. My brother's the inner parent came up because I had an older brother, right? So thank God I said, thank God, he was very protective. You've got siblings stuff probably that comes out too as the inner parent on each other, right?
Yes, yes, everything that surrounds us, and when we have children and we consider it home or our own space, can be a source of the inner parent beliefs later in life. Yeah.
That I was kind of free. So I'm grateful for, I should say free, but the culture I grew up in, being a military brat, we were kind of free. I don't know how that it is now, but in the 60s and 70s here in the US, I probably was in Europe too. We just free roamed
Hmm.
and we were a little risky, I think. I'm just fortunate, like I said, I had a protective brother and I had a younger sister that I became her parent, right? So she was a challenge. And to be honest with you, I didn't want, I've said that she knows this, I didn't want to be a parent when I became an adult because I knew how much work that was. And I'm like, and I thought I had more empathy for my mother, right? My
Hmm.
mom was working on her master's and she ended up becoming a psychologist, by the way, in the US. But I think she did it, Kasha, because she was trying to deal with stuff that
Hmm.
I think that's part of it. You're trying to help other people because you've experienced and seen things. And I think that's what she did, wanted to help because what she saw as military spouses. I'm very fortunate. I didn't see that at
Hmm.
the level. but I think it's so important to try to help people in the way that you can.
Of course.
You've got to have that passion for it, and you obviously have that passion.
Yes. Well, I think if there is something like a soul's choice, then I think that's what it is. Because I remember when I was a little child and uh, I got sick. I actually got a sunstroke. I was 8,
Wow.
and yeah, and I fainted, and I had to go to the hospital. So my parents took me to the hospital, and I spent 2 weeks in Children's Hospital in Krakow in Poland, and I loved it. I loved it being in the hospital. I mean, I was fortunate enough because my mom visited me every day, so I didn't feel abandoned or alone or scared. But I loved being in the hospital and seeing how the doctors and nurses work. And I remember when I was leaving the hospital with my mom and we were walking through the parking lot, and I turned back and look at the building and I said to my mom, you know what? One day I will come back here and I will heal all those children here. Yeah, so I was only 8, and already I had this kind of predisposition for doing this type of work. I mean, at that time, I didn't know what exactly it would be, maybe being a doctor or whatever, but in time, I found out it was the other stuff, the inner stuff that was more interesting to me.
Right. That's really cool that it just, you
Mhm.
just have to have those kind of experiences. Unfortunately, you had to be in the hospital, but
Mhm.
that I think at 8, you're also very more open to being influenced in a positive
Mhm.
way.
Yes.
Is that the right word?
Yes.
I mentioned before we started recording, for some reason, I try to focus on the positive. I don't know where that came, something must have happened to me when I was younger. I got a lot of, when you talk about the hospital, I was there a lot just because I was so risky and following my brother, trying to
Mhm.
be like my older brother. Then I think that my mom just laughed it off. She, again, was a great role model when you look back on it. And
Mhm.
it's just amazing how we just need to look at that. And then good friends too. I'm sure you had some good friends, right?
Yes.
That helped you get through all this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another thing I hear a lot about is that's narcissism that's out there. I mean, I experienced it, but I don't really like label people that way. But what do you think is cause? Is it because the inner parent isn't talking properly to the
Well, actually, I wrote it in the book, in my second book about the covert narcissism. It's my own story of being in a relationship with one. So I'm writing about, how it felt as a person, but I also give some analysis to it, and also I put it in the inner parent, inner child theory. So yes, how I see it is that in a person who has the personality disorder, the inner child and inner parent are so completely disconnected to the point of not knowing about existence of each other. There is a huge empty void and empty space between the inner child and inner parent. They should be together like one whole. And in a narcissistic disorder, there's space between, and it's just empty. There's nobody there, and it's a very serious condition. We tend to overuse this word now. Somebody's a little bit selfish, or even sometimes people with anxiety, who are focused on themselves very much because they have to, because they have obsession or something. We can even call them narcissists because they're obsessed with themselves, but it has nothing to do with the personality disorder. It's just totally different thing. So sometimes we don't know what the real personality disorder is, and this is very, very serious condition. It's so fundamental to the function of us as humans that the regular psychology says it's incurable. You cannot cure it. You can learn how to manage it and be a better person, but most of those people don't do it because part of the disorder is they think they're perfect and everybody else is
have
bad.
to put effort into it, right? To make a
Yes,
change. And
incredible effort.
yes, and they don't want to. Sounds like.
No. No, because they would have to admit that something is not right. And by admitting that something is not right about themselves, they would collapse on the spot. It's just a, yeah.
I also, my understanding is medication wouldn't help something like that, right? I don't think so. I'm not a
No.
psychologist or psychiatrist. Yeah.
Yes. No, I mean, medications can help manage some things. Those people develop depressions and anxiety disorders and other things. So we can kind of manage the symptoms, but no, no, it will never cure it, any medication.
Do you think people are born with some kind of born that way? That makes sense. It's not environment. That's more of a, like my brother-in-law has they said he has poor contact with reality. I helped him
Hmm.
because I noticed that his parents were in denial that anything was different about him. And medication, I was told, would not help him. So we have to help him. And he has these outbursts. I'm just sharing this with you just because we all have this we don't realize it, but it is in our family. And I got involved because, well, he's my husband's brother, but he listens to me. I'm the only person he listens to other than his mother, which is,
Mm-hmm.
and he's older than me, which I think is funny. But it is, he was just born that way.
Hmm.
And they thought they could change that
Yeah.
behavior. But I did have to convince him in certain words to do certain things. You kind of have to
Hmm.
like, well, you do, and then see how it works. And yeah, he's better with the way you talk to him. He'll have
Hmm.
outbursts if someone talks to him properly.
Hmm.
And that's why I think it's more prevalent than we think about in our world, right? Just, I don't,
Yes.
I don't know. He
Yes, it
doesn't have
is.
narcissism, but they just said poor contact with reality, which I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there may be different conditions that make us angry or anxious or selfish sometimes. For example, in my book, I made this comparison to autism because autistic people are very focused on themselves, and everything has to be as they want, because if not, they go inside into some kind of really, really bad anxiety, and they have to have as it is, and the and if not, they are angry. But what's I saw it, what's different between, for example, autism and narcissism is that autistic people are honest. They are real in it. They
Yes,
don't manipulate.
correct.
So it's pure. It is a dysfunction, but it's pure in its nature kind of thing. And narcissists, they have also the selfishness and all other, symptoms of the whole spectrum, but they manipulate, they lie, they
That's
use you, they
yes.
do it consciously. They will say something, to deceive you to their own benefit. So that's the big difference.
Yes. I've
Hmm.
heard, like you mentioned, we hear a lot about autism and narcissism, and
Hmm.
that's people don't really quite understand
Hmm.
difference. And for my brother-in-law, they said he wasn't. They didn't think he was on the spectrum, but he also, my understanding, had problems at childbirth. My mom thinks he probably didn't get enough oxygen or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my mom thinks. And
Hmm.
because she's seen him, many times, and I mean, he's normal, but then he just has these, you know,
Hmm.
you got to be careful on how you communicate with
Hmm.
certain people. He's not violent, but he can scare you just because he's so big. He's really tall, but he still acts. I joke that I have a 6'5" 7-year-old. But I'm so glad. But he's still he adds value to the world. He's watching our dogs. I'm not gonna. We just have to look at that's what you want to give back. That's what I try. I see some inner parent in me. I try to figure out how to, it's not just talking to myself, but I think I help people more than I help myself. That's I don't know, my thing. I don't know why I'm just wired that way.
Well, if it really is working good for you and makes you, feeling good, and you're healthy in the
Yes.
process, and you don't forget about yourself in the process, then that's really good. Yeah.
I go running.
Yes.
I mean, I don't run every day, but I walk every day and
Mm-hmm.
make time to run. And some people think it's strange that I still do that, but I've learned I make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Kasha, I don't go out and do marathons, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
figure to do something consistently, right? I'm sure you have something like that. I think
Yes.
movement is you probably agree, movement is real important to
Yes.
not to be sitting all the time.
Yes. Yes, that's true. And I'm 52 right now, and I am observing the age process. So yes, so especially now, the movement is even more important because the regeneration, it's not as good as when you are 20. So you have to help the body to regenerate through movement, yes, and keep
I love
everything functioning, yes.
and that's yeah, just something that I've learned. I'm 60 now, which is that's why people are surprised that I still do that. And it's because I enjoy it. And some people like to ride bikes, and I'd rather keep it simple and just put on some shoes and
Mhm.
shoes,
Yes,
rather than getting on a bike and a helmet and just keeping track of taking care of your bike. That's just
very good.
like to ride bikes.
Yes, very good. And I forgot to answer your question that you asked a few minutes ago about the condition, if you are born with it or you catch it up on the way or something. So how I understand it, I don't know if it's right, but I think it's a combination of two. So there is something that you are born with, some predispositions to become a narcissist, and plus, when you have tough childhood and parents that kind of strengthening the predisposition, then you become one. But I also worked with many people who had unbelievably traumatic childhood and they never became narcissists, right? So there has to be something personal that will get triggered and strengthened, and it will develop into a full-blown personality disorder. Also, there are children who are born with it, and even if they had really loving and supportive house, they still are growing into being a narcissist. It's a combination of things, I think. It's not one answer.
Your,
Mhm.
your environment, right? And that is something that we just need, again, try to respect. I try to respect people. I try not to, I've learned to not react and make this, if I'm when I'm around someone like that, I try
Hmm.
not to because I don't want to trigger something. Like I said, I've seen it with my brother-in-law in the past, and I'm just like really careful to not, but some people don't understand that. Some
Hmm.
people, my whole family knows we have to be careful what you say just because it
Hmm.
triggers and they don't know what causes with him. My husband is um total opposite, which is kind of
Hmm.
funny. He was a second born, but I think he probably acted out too, gosh, when he was younger because his parents are so focused on his other brother. I mean, that's another thing. You just the dynamics of a family, every family is different. He was the wild one because he's like, hello, trying to get
Hmm.
their attention. That's just amazing that our backgrounds affect us. So what do those kind of people when they write, do you think they trying to like look for love? You know what I'm saying?
Well, they think they're looking for love. That's how it can look, but the central, the core part is they look for attention, admiration, compassion, um, because their own inner parent and inner child are so distant, they don't know about each other. So they don't know who they are actually deeply down there. They really don't know who they are, even if they think. So, so they at the bottom of it, there's a self-hatred, very low self-esteem, the need to be seen and loved, but they have to do it, give it to themselves first, meaning, okay, I acknowledge who I am. I am who I am. I love myself. I accept myself. I am worthy enough of being and living. But because they cannot do it to themselves and with themselves, they are desperately looking to get it from the outside, but they do it in a very, very evil way,
Right.
manipulative.
Definitely scares other people,
Yes.
like you
And
said, they
yes.
learn to get what they want. You mentioned earlier
Mm-hmm.
about manipulating, and so they've learned over time. It's not something that they're that manipulation is not something they probably are born with. They have to practice. And
Yes.
you also made me think of, as you're talking about it, how the two sides are separated. It's kind of like they're lost, right? They're lost in the woods, maybe.
Yes. They lost. Yes, they lost. But the most difficult and scary thing is that they don't want to admit it, and they don't want to do anything about it. They just want to use you to
Yes,
fulfill their needs. So they don't care, what happens with you in the process, and they just demand, 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 demand until you cannot give anymore.
right. That is, and
Hmm.
that wears me out just thinking about.
Hmm.
I think that's why people probably eventually they push those kind of people, narcissists,
Hmm.
away eventually because it adds a lot of stress to the other people,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that causes a lot of tension.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
and many people, men and women who live with a narcissist in a house, in a family, husband or wife or partner, they're on the other side of the story, and the entanglement, the emotional entanglement can be sometimes so deep that they live in those relationships for long, long, long years, sometimes until death do us part. And they get exhausted and sick in the process because they have no strength or no belief they can leave.
and there's right. They're suppressing those
Yes.
emotions, which is not
Yeah.
good for your health,
Mm-mm.
not long term.
No.
Wow. Well, what are mentioned you're an author. What are I love books, by the way. What are the titles of your books?
The first one, where I talk about the inner parent, is called You Are the Dream of the Universe. And the second one, that it's coming December this year, 2025, is the Chameleon's Game, How
Ah,
to Unmask and Leave a Covert Narcissist.
yeah, that's a good
Mhm.
one. We need to understand that more. And I've seen a lot of people in my life who are that way, like they're a chameleon. But
Mhm.
I have a instinct for finding that a good trait I have is I'm very detailed and I look and listen to what people are saying. And some people blow that off about your instinct too. What do you think about that? People have instinct to push someone like a chameleon away.
Yes, well, usually people do have instincts, and it comes from the deeper part of you that it's not very logic. So we could say from the inner child and the inner animal who can feel, a little bit wider than what the mind knows. But the problem is that the mind, which is the inner parent who is discerning and choosing and having convictions and beliefs, doesn't want to listen to it. So we don't listen to those little whispers inside that tell us no. The better we are connected to the core, the essence, the inner child, and we listen and we trust that the mind trusts that it's correct, that it's really, even if you don't understand it, it's on the point, then we can avoid trouble.
Yeah, that's something I'm thankful for. I mean, I've had,
Mhm.
we all have a weird
Of
experience.
course.
Yeah, we all have it. And just like you walk away and you feel better. And it just depends on, I try not to go, thank God, I met my husband, but it took a while just to
Hmm.
get connected because I've had a bad experience with another boyfriend prior to him. So I kind of learned
Hmm.
from that. And
Yeah.
you just want to be happy. That's really
Yes.
what it's
Yeah.
about. And so you think this person um
Hmm.
is going to make you happy, and sometimes it's not. And that's another thing with the younger generation. They have so much more information out
Mm.
there than we did, right?
Yes.
Conflicts. And I think a therapist is a really great way to start rather than, I know that's my personal opinion, to
Hmm.
get some feedback. It's really, you're trying to, find out, well, what's going on, right? So kind of go back to the difference between a therapist and a psychologist. What is your take on that? What is the difference?
Psychologist and therapist.
If someone's looking for help, what is the difference?
between psychologist and therapist. Yeah. Well, a therapist is somebody who is, how I say it, it's more like a hands-on process. And therapy is something that can be deeper and ongoing, and there's a therapeutic relationship. It's like a process, and we talk about life and emotions and try to figure things out and process many, many things. With psychologists, well, psychologists can know things, can do tests and say, for example, do this test. Oh, yeah, you have this disorder, you have that disorder. It can talk, psychologists can talk to you and analyze things. It doesn't have to be a therapy. It could be just talk and guidance. Well, not every psychologist is a therapist, but probably every therapist who is a good therapist is a psychologist, even if doesn't have a diploma.
What about the word counselor? That just popped into my head. I've heard that word here in the U.S., counselor. Like at schools, they have counselors. So that's probably a little different, slightly different.
Yeah, it's probably more superficial. Like you need some advice. Okay, I don't know to what school should I go. Okay, so I will ask you a few questions and let's try to find out what's your best interest. And yeah, it's counseling, right? It's giving a little advice.
I think I had someone in high school talk to me like, I don't remember about what I should do after.
Yeah, yeah.
I probably ignored them
Yeah.
because I didn't think I was getting benefit from it. I felt they were just representing the school, not
Yeah.
Bridget. I'm sure I'm not blowing that off. If people want to do that's fine. I just,
Yeah.
those three words are kind of interchanged sometimes, and I just want to.
Yeah. Well, as we talk, I mean, it's just my opinion. I don't know if I'm right, but counselor is somebody who will counsel you about some life stuff, what to do, maybe what direction should you go, or points your attention to some direction. Psychologist will help you to understand some things a little bit deeper about life and how things work, and the therapist will help you to really go deep and process things.
To actually work, right?
Yes, yes.
So, my last thought was for the listeners, what is one thing that you can recommend to them if they are having an issue they want to deal with? What is the first step they should look at doing?
If somebody has some difficult time or problem, what should they do?
Yes.
Well, I will say that's what I would do because that's what I always do. First of all, ask for help, because sitting by yourself in the problem, in the middle of the problem and feeling helpless, it's the worst. It's the worst what we can do. So ask for help, look for help. Well, what works for me personally, I've been doing the EFT, which is the emotional freedom techniques, the tapping, called tapping also. There's plenty of material, free material on internet that people can go and find out how it's done. Those are very simple exercises, and they can release, sometimes in minutes, some serious emotional baggage or stress or something that is bugging you, or reframe your thinking or give you more lightness and space. So if somebody doesn't want to go to some serious therapy and spend another few months or years working on themselves, but they want some help and relief, that's what I would do. And I would recommend to everybody, just find out what EFT is, emotional freedom techniques. It's very simple. Anybody can do it on themselves without any schooling. It's just simple information. And I guarantee if you do a simple exercise, you will feel better, and perhaps you will release even something deeper. So that's like a first aid, emotional first aid. So if somebody doesn't know it, I really recommend to find out what it is and how it's done.
I love that. It's very simple. That's what
Yes.
start simple is the best way
Yes.
forward.
And
And
you can do it yourself.
yes, and then you'll figure out the next step after you've
Yes.
done it, if
Yes.
you're comfortable moving forward, right? And
Yes.
you have to be comfortable,
Yes. And you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars for a session.
right? That's great. I
Mm.
really love what you're doing, Kasha, to help everybody. And unfortunately, you had an injury as a child, but your purpose was discovered. And I
Mm-hmm.
think then you're in a great example of following that great emotion that you had. And you You're doing so much for the world. Where can people reach out to you?
Uh, I have a website in English. It's katarzynadodd.com, which is my name.com. And I have some articles there, and I have information about the first book. The second book, it's not out yet, will be in December. So I will put the information about the second book. And I used to do workshops in English, but now I'm not doing it. Occasionally I do some session in English. Most of clients I have are Polish people living outside of Poland, like me, being immigrants. But occasionally I will work with somebody who is English speaking if somebody feels like it.
I love that. And for those that are listening, I'll include the link that Kasha mentioned in the description, just in case. And if you're driving, please be safe. That's what I always tell people. You don't know
Yes.
if people listen to podcasts when they're commuting or whatever. Well, I really appreciate your input and your knowledge, Kasha, and hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me and asking me all those questions. I loved it.
Thanks again.